human connections are complicated. There are so many things to consider. As much as we should always place hope in the good nature of people, we need to keep our eyes open on what's being presented to us. But everyone's an onion with many layers, and when you're an empath, it's hard to make decisions on what we allow in our lives and what we want to allow because we understand. Some people, intentionally or not, feel comfortable in the blurred lines. And this is why we forgive and we move on despite certain events that cause us a great deal of pain. Don't get me wrong here, I think forgiveness is a great skill to master, and I do think we should always believe in the goodness of people's heart. It's just that self-preservation has to be the number one goal. But let's be real. It takes a lot of strength to apply these boundaries on situations and people we truly appreciate, but for some reason are emotionally and energetically more taxing than they should. Sometimes you lose a piece of joy to then be served a bitter, yet enlightening lesson. Despite all that, we're bound to make mistakes, and sometimes making the same mistakes over and over again until we truly absorb the lesson. And that's totally okay, because we're human, and deep down we're all just trying to learn what we need to learn from our time on this earth. So I hope you never lose hope in the goodness of people, and that you're able to forgive, even when this forgiveness is leaving a bad taste in your mouth. I hope you never let this bad taste harden your heart, and that you keep going, even when you don't get the desired outcome. Now, you might think I'm far-fetched here, but forgiveness is a bit like making bread. You gotta keep trying until you get it right. Some days you'll make it work fine, and the next day it won't be. It's all about finding that right balance between what you put in and what you take out. It reminds me of that time I decided to obsess on making the perfect focaccia. In the end, I totally got it, and that's what we're going to be making today, but I lost a lot of resources trying to come up with this, I think, fail-proof recipe. So I hope you get to try it, and I hope you can find peace in whatever you need to find peace in. Be patient with yourself, others, and this recipe because it's gonna be a long one. Lastly, I truly hope you never stop trying and don't let disappointing attempt makes you lose this hope because you'll get it one day. That perfect balance, that perfect focaccia. First, we're gonna make our sponge. The reason we're doing this is to spark up the fermentation, which will enhance the taste of our bread in the end. Once you whisk all the ingredients together, cover it up and let it rest for an hour. During this time, gather the rest of the ingredients. Personally, I want my focaccia to be crispy on the outside, soft and chewy on the inside. I want it to taste like olive oil, so make sure you're using a decently tasting one because it will be noticeable in your final product. I also want it to be salty, but we won't have that much in the dough since we're going to be topping it with a copious amount of sea salt crystals. Once the first hour has passed, it's time for the real work to begin. Okay, I'm saying this like it's a lot of work, but it's not really. We're proceeding to do a series of pick up and fold, which means exactly that. With wet hand, pick up and fold the first side, rotate the bowl 90 degrees, and do it again on the other side. Repeat this step until you've picked up and folded all 4 sides 2 to 3 times per side. As you're going to be working the dough, you'll notice that it will go from soft and flimsy to silky and firm. Then let it rest for 30 minutes. Once that's done, we're going to do another series of pick up and fold, 2 to 3 times per side, and allow the dough to rest for an additional 30 minutes. While waiting for this third fermentation to run its course, start oiling a good quality nonstick pan like this one, or simply a metal baking sheet. I'm using a lot of olive oil, and by a lot I mean that you should see a nice pool at the bottom of your baking vessel. When the resting period is over, pick up and fold the dough twice per side while popping any big air bubble that rises to the surface. Then allow the dough to rest for an additional 30 minutes. After a series of pick up and folds, finally drop the dough upside down into the grease pan and in a swift movement, turn it around before spreading it gently by pushing with the tip of your fingers or the palm of your hand. Once you feel like you've stretched the dough to its maximum, let it rest for 20 minutes. Time to preheat the oven at 450 Fahrenheit or 232 Celsius and to prepare what we call a saumure. which is basically a salty and oily liquid we'll be pouring on top of our bread prior to baking it. Emulsify the oil with a tiny whisk. How cute is that, right? Or a fork. 20 minutes later, when the dough has relaxed enough, give it a nice last stretch so it fits the complete surface of your baking pan, or simply flatten it a little bit more if you're using a baking sheet. Pour the liquid on top, spread it by using the tip of your fingers, and make a little dent in the dough to get that classic focaccia look. Give it one last final rest before baking. While the dough is resting for the last 20 minutes, prepare your toppings. Here I'm doing a basic rosemary and salt mix, but go crazy and add tomatoes, anchovies, pecorino, my personal favorite, or anything else you feel like adding. Pop that beauty in the oven and let it bake between 20 and 30 minutes depending on the strength of your oven. Mine took about 20 to 25 minutes. And voila! Bon appétit! All this work was worth it because now you have an amazing homemade focaccia to snack on. Oh, and did you know you can make incredible sandwiches with it? Hope you like this recipe. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and I'm going to catch you in my next one. Bye!